Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call this meeting to open. So today we call the meeting agenda open for the Budget and Finance Committee, Monday, April 22nd, 2024. Starting the roll call, I am Chairman Davis. To my left, we have Councilwoman West, and to my right, we have our mayor, Mr. Roots. Today we'll be covering Bill number 2, which was tabled from our prior meeting. To establish the fee schedule rates and setting nominal fees based upon program cost. And then Bill number 2, the amending Part 3, Business Regulation and Taxation Code, Title 1, Taxation, Article 313, Abatement of Interest and Penalties to update the language. Thank you very much. You're going to open the floor to any questions or comments from any of our department heads to start.
So I'm Jim Lafer, I'm the CFO, for those who don't know me. One of the items on the abatement bill, you have a...
Jim, I think you need to hold it
Better?
better.
Okay. One of the items that you've known about, and since my time here, is you have quite a bit of outstanding taxes as well as rubbish fees. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars. And how do we go about collecting some of those? And in many cases, the interest and penalties have become almost as much as the original bill. So one of the items that we have been talking about is providing an abatement period for interest and penalties so that people can come forward and address these taxes. We've started to do some of this with the rubbish, with working with L&I as far as to get your rental permit. You have to be current on your outstanding bills. We've collected some money in that. We've also discovered quite a few of vacant lots that should have never been taxed on the rubbish bills, and they've provided proof to us that they don't have any services or no buildings, or the building is considered vacant and they have no water services to that building. So that's really what our approach is about, trying to work with the citizens of the city of Chester, because we all are struggling. We've gotten behind, but also the city needs these funds. So that is one of our thoughts, is how can we work as a partner with them and in addressing some of their needs, as well as collecting the resources that the city needs. Because right now, the rubbish, while we consider it enterprise funds, which means that revenue should offset the expenses, I think this year we're projecting a deficit of about $700,000 in the budget that the general fund actually has to pay to subsidize the rubbish collection. And so that's our general thought, and we're hoping for some guidance from the committee here.
Thank you, Mr. Laper. I have a question for you while you're already up. What is the current rate percentage and scheduling on our e-collect for our rubbish?
So we have just turned over rubbish to e-collect in the past. That was something that was kept in-house, and we did not do. I do not know what they're charging me as a percentage off the top of my head. I can look up and get back to you after this meeting. But that's something that we've just started. I said, we have individuals that it's just, they've missed a year, and I have one individual that owes, over $100,000 in past rubbish bills. So it's quite a few. We've produced some information in-house to show that a lot of this is related to landlords. It's not to the individuals. That we can do that based on where their mailing address is, as well as if they have multiple properties in their names. So we've tried to look at a way because again, the citizens of Chester, I know, are very important to you, and they're more important to us as a whole because they make this community what it is. So we're really trying to address some of those larger individuals who owe money.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from anyone on the board?
Do you have any recommendations?
I think for a period of time, it should not be a carte blanche that will waive interest and penalties. But I think if we picked a period of time, if you come forward with us and pay your bills, that we will waive the interest and penalties. And if you do an installment agreement, in some cases people can't afford to make the one big payment, that we'll give some sort of prorated installment abatement program, so that if they say, look, I need 6 months or a year to pay this, maybe we waive 50% of the interest and penalties. I do believe that there should be some general guidelines, but also it should come back before the council, and as well it needs to be all-encompassing. Just because they get caught up on their rubbish, if they owe other fees to the city, other taxes, they have to address all issues and not a particular one.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Latham. Do we have any more questions from anybody in the audience? Department head, chief.
So no questions, more so is getting guidance on how you guys would like to proceed. Do you want us to go ahead and start making changes on this, or would you like to take this on as a committee? So we know how to move forward on how to direct this, or do you want us to make the recommendations and submit them to you?
Got me in the short chair. Recommendations, that we can look at, and get some type of basis for
Okay.
which we're going to move ahead.
Okay. That's all I had.
Do you know if from the letter of the law here, are we honoring this abatement program here? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I don't think we are. This is from 1994, so.
Right.
I do.
Yeah.
So one of the options would be to enforce this abatement, or we're trying to be even more generous than this?
Well, that's one of the reasons we brought it before the committee, is to see what your thoughts are based on this one right now, to see if you're okay with the way this is. But from recommendations, as Mr. Lathrop just expressed to you, there are some better, more efficient ways to do this. But before we go and start revising an ordinance, we wanted to make sure we brought it to the committee first, especially when it comes to abatement and taxes. Wanted to run that past you all first and give you an opportunity as a committee to think this through before we start making any recommendations. Or, again, do we continue with the way the process is? Well, there is no process right now, but the way the ordinance is currently written. But we do think there are some better, more efficient ways.
So what I'd like to see is, whatever you come up with, compare it to what we have now. The other question I have is, abatements sometimes have to also be approved by other agencies like the school district, maybe even the county. Do they have to agree to our tax abatements? I guess rubbish wouldn't affect school district, but, I think Mr. Lathrop said we're talking about abatements across the board, all taxes in the city. Was that a clear question?
That was a clear question.
Okay.
So the answer to your question is yes and no. Yes, if we are going to be doing something across with the school district or other taxing bodies. But if we're just going to focus on what we, the city, have, as you know the answer to that. We can just make that happen.
Okay.
I think my recommendation for moving forward would be to assess some of the numbers and languages in this current ordinance and try to gear it towards, excuse me, the city of Chester's current problems that we're facing today. So for example, in 313-06, one-time participation, a taxpayer can participate in the program one time only, but can include all delinquent taxes as set forth in section 313-06 that are owed at the time of participation. We're having, for example, one constituent who owes over $100,000 in just trash, what if they have over $100,000 in other delinquent taxes? To get rid of 65% of that number as a whole is going to still cost the city a hefty amount of money. So, go ahead.
So one of the things I'd like to make clear, we are not asking to abate the taxes or the fees. It's just the interest and penalties.
Okay.
So, you know, you need to pay what everybody else pays. It's just an opportunity to abate the interest and penalties. So I just wanted to make that
Okay.
clarification.
Yeah.
Exactly. If it would be to the school, they would have their own charge, but it's what we charge the individual as far as our share of the interest and penalties, is that's the only portion that would, we're recommending.
Right. Okay. Any more questions or public comment? No. Okay, so I don't need to make a motion, do I? Motion? To move this, to move it, to table it for further conversation via language.
Doing it, yeah.
Right, okay. Okay. So not a motion.
Well, we have to let them know that.
Right. So, yes, with I guess updated language or different numbers to, I guess to off, or suggestions, I guess, to offset what we're reading now from, I guess, almost 20-year-old ordinance, I guess. So that would be my current recommendation.
I agree.
I
Yep.
agree.
Okay. So we're good. Thank you. So we move to table this until we get further. Thank you. And-
So we brought before you last committee meeting in reference to a change in the actual fee ordinance or an adoption of a fee ordinance. What we have noticed is, since the fee ordinance is very substantial, that I'm recommending that we break it up and have committee meetings for each one of the departments. So I would ask if you can table this one as well. Let the other committees meet, the Economic Development Committee, the Park and Recs Committee, let those committees meet to discuss their fees. And then, once they've come to a point where they are comfortable with those fees, and they bring it back to the Finance Committee with a completely revised, updated, from every department, fee schedule. But Finance does have a part of the fee schedule in here, so maybe at your next Finance Committee meeting, this will be strictly for Finance Department to discuss their fees involved with that, and also with the actual abatement ordinance as well. So I would ask if you, as the chair, could accommodate that, and then we will set up from a staff perspective a schedule and make sure that the other committees are scheduled to review their fee ordinances as well.
So I would like to, as a chair, I would like to make the motion to table, I guess, the fee ordinance schedule for our next Budget and Finance meeting, so that we can cover each committee's finances or fees that are related to that committee at one time. So as Chief Leitner mentioned, we will, at our next meeting, we will tackle specifically the finance department's fee schedule and then continue from there.
So moved?
I'm sorry, so moved.
Oh, then I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
We're good.
I second then.
All right, so we're moved, and that passes.
Had a vote. All those in favor?
All those in favor? Excuse me.
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye, aye. And that passes 3-0.
That's weird. How it's like, that just, get their fee schedules together. So it's like 2 weeks. Let's go out and
Sounds good. And taking advice from Mr. Mayor, I believe that we should schedule our next meeting for 1 month out instead of 2 weeks prior. So that gives a chance for all the other committee meetings to happen until we have our meeting following. So the next meeting will be scheduled from 1 month today, which will be, I'm so sorry, everyone, because I don't have that off the top of my head. May 20th would be 1 month from today at 1 p.m.
Got it.
And I think that's all we have for today. Any last-minute questions, concerns, or comments from anyone in the public or department heads? All right, this meeting is adjourned.